Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Spiritually Fucked podcast. I'm your host, Taylor Mulholland. Let's get into the show. Hello, everyone. Welcome. Today we have my Boulder bestie, Lilly, on. She is a subconscious healing coach and one of my dear friends. So say hello, Lilly.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for having me, Taylor.
Yes, I wanted to have Lilly on because we recently did a podcast together and I just want to get to know her a little bit more. And so I have some fun questions for her to start. And we're just going to start off with a question to ground us in. Lilly, what is alive in your life right now?
Ooh, what is not alive in my life right now? So much. I would say the biggest thing is just a deeper level of coming home to myself, which is also the program that I'm launching. And that makes a lot of sense. It's like we go through our own initiation when we birth something like that. And yeah, just feeling very empowered in bringing my energy back into me and pouring it into my work and who I'm becoming, this next level version of myself. Because for a long time in my life and in different seasons, I pour out a lot and I love that. I have a lot of beautiful friendships and relationships, but it's just a season of pouring that energy back in and being more discerning about my time and energy. And yeah, that feels really exciting.
Okay, I love that. And I do want to mention, I remember when we first started connecting, I was just like, this bitch, everything she's posting, I relate to. It's like we were either channeling from the same place or we were just in the same path where we were experiencing the same thing of like coming home to ourselves. And I think it's almost refreshing when you meet someone you know and you resonate with and you're also going through the same stuff.
Yeah, for sure. And I love hearing that because like how many women out there are on a similar path? It's just this circular journey where we continue to revisit, we like expand out and we learn and then we are brought back to ourselves in a deeper way and we access another level and another layer. I mean, those of us on, this kind of self-discovery, self-healing journey, it is this cyclical nature and it's so fun to be able to find more women who are on this path so we can go on it together because a lot of us are trying to do this alone in isolation and it's so much better when you do it together.
Yeah, because I feel like when you're with someone else and it just takes the load off a little bit and then you can almost laugh about it and be like, wait, it's not just me. Like you're going through a fucking shithole too. Like, can we do this together?
Yeah, one of my good friends texted me the other day and was like, "Hey, how are you doing? I'm kind of going through it right now." And I was like, "Hey, me too." And he was like, "Oh, I could feel it." I was like, "Those are my kinds of friends." We're just like,
Yeah.
we can go through it together and yeah, you can laugh about it a little bit because it doesn't have to be so serious. And also, being human is hard and we all go through it. So let's just do it together and make it more fun.
I love that. Okay, so I guess me and Lily, we met through the sauna in Boulder. And I didn't know this was a thing, but there's a huge sauna culture. It's like a cult thing in Boulder, but the coolest people go there. And so my question for you is, what brought you to Boulder and why did you stay?
Ooh, this is a fun question because coming to Boulder was my first intuitive, well, one of my first like really big intuitive decisions that I made without logic. And so
Wow.
the story is kind of fun. My partner Austin and I were living in Chico, California at the time, and he was going through firefighter paramedic school. We had just graduated college. We were kind of starting our own lives. I was becoming a certified holistic health coach online, so my job was remote, although we were still working in restaurants on the side as well. And we took psychedelic mushrooms, and our whole lives changed, is the
As they
nutshell
do.
version. Mm-hmm. And yeah, it just sent us down a different path of spiritual discovery, if you will. And we just really started to become fascinated listening to podcasts, journaling, just doing all the things, fascinated about, wait, there's more to life than we thought. And we spent that next year or so in Chico, California, just really, like I said, deep on the spiritual journey, newbies, but just that excitement of like, whoa, there's so much more to life than we originally thought and that we were told. And pretty soon after that, the pandemic hit and everything shut down. And Austin had quit, my partner had quit his job, or his path job and studies. And our restaurants that we were working at were shut down because of the pandemic, and we were getting unemployment. And I remember one day we were sitting there and I was like, the only thing keeping us here is our stuff. Like, for the first time in our lives, we actually can go wherever we want. And we were just starting to play with the universe and intuition. And so we were like, okay, well, I had a strong pull to go to Colorado. Like, I didn't even know why. I'd never been here before. I didn't know anyone here, but something in me was like, go to the mountains. And I grew up by the beach in Costa Rica. So it was strange, but I just knew I wanted to go to the mountains, and Colorado was screaming at me. And because we were starting to play with synchronicity and asking the universe, we put it out there. I was like, where in Colorado? Colorado's a big place. Like, where in Colorado should we go? And I kid you not, for the next 2 weeks, Boulder came up everywhere. Like, in the randomest places, in conversations. Our cat food that we'd been buying for probably 2 years, I had never noticed, and neither did Austin, that on the top it said made with love from Boulder, Colorado.
Oh my
And
God.
I was just like, oh my gosh, it's a sign. And I didn't even think twice about it. Neither did Austin. And within a month, we sold 80% of our stuff, packed up a U-Haul with our cat and our dog, and just started driving straight to Boulder. 13-hour drive. It was kind of hectic, but such an adventure. And we got here May of 2020. So, like, right at the beginning of the pandemic. And this story is beautiful. And also, I landed here with just boxes everywhere in an unfamiliar place. And it was so eerie because everything was shut down. Pearl Street, downtown Boulder, was like a ghost town. And for a moment, I was like, fuck, what did we just do? Did we just mess everything up? We just let go of all the familiar friends and everything. But that's normal when you make a big change like that. And I'm so glad that we just stayed and stuck through it, because now looking back, I know exactly why I was led here. It's exactly where I'm supposed to be. We've made such an amazing group of friends and community, and it has allowed us to start our lives in a way that's just true to us and not based on anything we were told we needed to do.
Wow, I love that story because I had no call ever to move to Colorado. You know, I was almost dragged here, you could say, by my brothers, and I had roots in Arizona and I had a whole community, so leaving that was like a little terrifying. And my dad grew up in Colorado, so we have a little blood here, but it just was I had no idea what the fuck to expect when moving to Boulder, but everyone I was talking to was like, "Oh, that's so you. Like you're so Boulder." And I'm like, "What? Like I don't know anything about this place." And then now finally settling in, I'm like, "Oh, it the main thing for me is like the nature. I mean, it is I loved the desert, but like I fucking love the mountains here and seeing like deer like driving to like Whole Foods. I'm like, you don't really see that a lot. And the creek kind of just sold me because I love swimming in water, but uh I still was kind of feeling out of place here. And then I found the community and I'm like, whoa, these people they're on the similar path. And I had no idea Boulder was such a like conscious community. And so I'm always curious why people come here. It's like, why was it the nature or was it the community? Because I mean, they're both great.
Yeah, it's both, I think, for me. And I think any place that you move to, even if there's a strong sense of conscious community, it still takes time. It takes time to get settled. And I feel that we have to be willing to go through that initial discomfort and uncertainty where all the familiar pieces have been kind of stripped away and you're just awkwardly the new kid and don't really know where to go. And it just takes some time to grow your roots. But if you give it a chance, I feel that Boulder is such a good spot for that. And it's such a vortex. Like, so many people that I've met have moved here over the past few years. It's so rare to meet someone who's actually from here, which is funny. Yeah. And I feel like even for you, I don't know, maybe the universe was dragging you over here. It was like, Taylor, it's time, whether you like it or not.
Well, crazy enough is my Jupiter line runs through Boulder and astrocartography. And Jupiter is the line of abundance and expansion. And for that to run through fucking Boulder is like really crazy. Like usually people's Jupiter lines run through Europe and they're like, well, I'm never going to go to Europe. But I'm starting to feel my Jupiter line like set into place. But I want to talk about the signs you were saying because you are a subconscious coach. And I know a little bit about the RAS, and it's kind of like this system in your brain where it picks up what it's like kind of programmed to design. And so you said you set the intention and then you started seeing the signs. So as like a subconscious coach, like what does seeing signs like mean? Like how can we tell these people, these listeners, like what it means to see like divine signs?
Yeah. I mean, back then I was not in the subconscious space yet. I was all about nutrition and gut health, and that was my life. But looking back, yeah, the RAS, the reticular activating system, is basically your filtering system in your brain. And this is where we get into reality is not happening outside of you, it is happening in your own brain. And that is because you are receiving millions of bits of information constantly through all your senses, and your subconscious is receiving that. But what gets to your conscious awareness is like a tiny fraction of that. It's like 0.99% is what it's filtering out, is filtering out like 99%, so you're getting just like under 1% of the information that's actually available. And so when we set intentions, like intentions aren't just this spiritual woo woo thing, it is an instruction for your brain. So even asking a question like, I want to see more reasons for why I'm abundant in my life, or show me XYZ, we're instructing the brain, we're instructing that filtering system to find more of that which we want to see, which we are focusing on, or what matches our subconscious beliefs. And, I think that in part, this universe is, to me, it's like 50-50, like part just your own brain and the way that it is designed based on your conditioning and your subconscious programs, and then also part intelligence and divine orchestration. To me, that's just like there's both here, and I know that deep in my soul. And so I think we're playing with both. We're playing a little bit with our own brain of what do we believe, and what are we looking for, what are we asking for, and then also some greater intelligence, whatever you want to call that, that is guiding us in ways that we could have never predicted, but in hindsight we usually start to understand.
Okay, I love that. Yeah, I do. I always say it's like 50-50. It's like we become matches for things in our reality and then learning about the subconscious mind, which I just know like a tiny bit about, but I'm like, oh, so if I have a program that's running in my brain that is not serving me any longer, I'm going to continuously come into contact with experiences to remind me of that program until I fucking rewire it, until I want to experience something different. And I want to know how you got into the subconscious work because I looked at Lily's chart last conversation and she has 12th house Scorpio. And 12th house is the very depths of our subconscious, and it being in like a water sign, it's like double dose. And I know you have a lot of planets there. So I see she does subconscious work and then I look at her chart and I'm like, okay, this makes sense. And so I'm curious, like, was this something that just like came into your environment or were you had like a calling for it? Like, tell me about it.
No, it totally just came into my life because it was what I was missing and what I needed that I didn't know. So, like I mentioned earlier, I got into this whole spiritual path and healing path through physical health. I was a pretty healthy kid growing up, but then I went to college and went all out and messed up my health, especially my digestion. And once I graduated, I was like, I have gained weight, I have migraines, I am bloated all the time. I gotta fix this. And I wasn't getting answers from the mainstream medical system. So I took it into my own hands and became fascinated with nutrition and gut health and holistic healing and alternative healing modalities and all of that. And it was beautiful, but then I took it too far and I became obsessed, and it became another way to control my life, was by controlling my health and what I was eating and how much I was working out, and that just became everything. And that's, and then so a couple years after it got better, it started getting worse, and I started to, all the symptoms came back even stronger. And my only understanding was like, oh, I must not be working hard enough. There must be something I'm missing. So I was just a guinea pig. I was doing all the fad diets, all the fasting, the biohacking, reading all the books, just doing everything. I was going crazy, and it was breaking my logical brain because on paper I was doing everything right, and yet my body was responding so poorly. And I would just turn against myself. I was like, well, then I must be the problem. There's something wrong with me. And on top of that, being a health coach, I felt like such a fucking fraud. And it just made me so depressed, anxious. It was rough. It was a rough couple of years. And what finally broke me out of that was the subconscious work, specifically Peter Crohn's work. That's why I'm so fascinated with his frameworks, because they helped me to finally get out of my own way. And what I realized is that it's not about what you're doing, it's about where it's coming from. You can be doing all the right things, but if it's still coming from a place of thinking that you are inadequate, there's insecurity, there's scarcity, you're essentially overcompensating for a limiting belief that you're not aware of. It's gonna backfire if it ever even works at all. And that's where I realized, wow, I am still trying to prove myself. I don't think I'm worthy unless I look a certain way. There was all these subconscious stories from childhood that I was essentially trying to outrun with the pretty picture of health and wellness. And that began a whole new journey where I was like, okay, I need to calm down on all these crazy, forceful approaches that were all coming from fear, right? Of I need to do more, I need to fix myself, there's something wrong with me, and being fearful of everything I ate, recognizing how the mind was playing a role in how my body was responding, because I was constantly attacking myself through my self talk, putting my body into a state of fight or flight from which it can't heal, and then wondering why what I was eating wasn't healing me. It's like it starts within you. Your internal environment is most important, and our minds are dictating most of that. And so I paused on all these forceful attempts to heal my body, and I started looking at the mental emotional world, and it absolutely transformed my life. And so I just knew, I was like, this work fascinates me, and I just haven't looked back since. And it plays a role in every area of our lives, in our relationships. I mean, everything. It's all based on what you were conditioned to believe. That's who you are. And it's beyond just subconscious beliefs, it's the identity, like who you are for yourself, which is so deep. And that influences the beliefs, that influences the thoughts, the feelings, the words you speak, the actions you do or don't take, and therefore the results that you get. It's this whole cascade of events. And most people, myself included in the past, were just trying to manage the results and maybe the behaviors and maybe even the thoughts on a mindset level. But that is, Peter Crone has a saying of, at best, you're just becoming the best version of your limited self, if you don't actually get to the root of who do you believe yourself to be at a fundamental level that is causing you to react and to move through life from a place of scarcity, inadequacy, insecurity, that is then causing all the other symptoms you're trying to manage.
Dude, this is fucking crazy. Like, I I see it so clearly how you are at a place, and I see it now in kind of like the collective, where everyone's trying to solve their problems with external things. And it becomes a control mechanism because we are humans. So it's a tangible thing. And really, the work is the subconscious work and how your brain is running. And I had this insane thought when I was getting back into like my work. Like, I was listening to my mentors and my teachers that I really resonate with, and it finally clicked for me after listening to like one of these like workshops for like the third time. It finally clicked that if everything in our external environment, like atoms, are 99.9999999% energy. And so that means they're only 0.0001% matter. And so if we're trying to solve our problems by putting matter, by taking supplements, by throwing stuff in our bodies to try to heal them, you're only trying to heal it 0.0001%. And so it made sense to me finally that if everything is made up of energy, really approaching it through an energetic level is how you are going to finally like heal those health symptoms and whatnot, because and it's not going to be an overnight fix. Everyone nowadays wants overnight fixes, um and it's honestly like you can't sell like subconscious work in a pill. And that's kind of where we get lost these days, is everyone is just so used to this like overnight fix. And yeah, I'm just so fascinated by your story, because it's like the things we're supposed to teach in this life, we're going to be completely disrupted by, and it's going to like tear us down. And it sounds like you literally tried every single thing and you found it always just was returning back to yourself and how your brain was running.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I went down every rabbit hole I could possibly think of in the physical first. And it's also what we are constantly being sold. It's because it makes money quicker, is like this the quick fix, the pill, the shiny thing. And it contributes to this never-ending healing trap that I found myself in too, of there's always something more to do. And it prevented me from just going out and living my life. And so, yeah, it's just fascinating how it's a never-ending like process, but you just get to go live your life and then notice where you get upset, and then you can come back and do the work and actually use the subconscious healing work to discover where you're still facing a block that's causing you to be triggered, that's causing you to react. And so it's just like removing the layers of what is not you, essentially, to arrive back at like you're essentially liberating the soul, if you want to get poetic about it, liberating the truth of who you are through peeling back the layers, and the layers you will be confronted with by just living your life.
Oh, I love that you said you just live your life and then you just come back to those experiences. Because last year, the end of last year, I found myself constantly trying to like heal, 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 heal. And it came from not a sense of like me needing to be healed, but it was me needing control and me thinking like, oh, well, if I'm not driving the Range Rover, I'm not making the six figures this year, there's something wrong with me. And so I was continuously doing this like work, 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 work. And I was frying myself because my energy was not being put in the right place. And then I finally like set it aside and just started to live life again. And then I realized the things that we are meant to heal, or quote unquote heal, or do the work, or draw our attention to, are going to come up. And that's when you address them. Like if you have certain patterns, and I know I read this quote, I don't know, our brain is like really good at catching patterns. Like, is that a thing?
Yeah, it's a pattern recognition machine because it
That-
wants to. Your brain is a survival system. It doesn't care about your goals, it doesn't care about your dreams. It is a primal organ that is trying to keep you alive. And so it's a very intelligent system for that process. But that's why, to me it's like this is the software. Your mind is like the software, the programs, right? And the brain is the hardware. And we are we have to understand how it works so that we can live from the heart, so that it doesn't stop us, essentially. Like I'm not here to tell people to live from the mind. It's like I want to get the mind in check so that you can access the truth of who you are, which is so much deeper on a soul level, on your heart. But the mind stops us because of all these fearful patterns and conditions and our conditioning and everything that we learned in order to try to survive, that's the stuff that's getting in the way of who you truly want to be and authentically expressing yourself and being who you are. It's all this stuff that gets in the way of that. And so that's like where we start to rewire the brain so that it can be an ally for your soul, if you will. And yeah, it's a pattern recognition machine because that way it can conserve energy and still keep you alive based on so a really good quote to think of here is past hurt informs future fear. That's how the brain tries to predict potential outcomes in the future to keep you safe, is based on what you've experienced in the past and what you've been conditioned to believe, right? So if you've experienced a lot of hurt in relationships, now it's trying to pick up on patterns and clues in order to try and prevent pain and situations where that might be dangerous. However, a lot of those experiences the files are outdated, if you will. And what was scary as a child might not actually be a threat to us anymore. And so now it's just holding us back. For example, if someone doesn't text you back, you might go into that panic of like, I'm going to be abandoned. When in reality, it's like, I'm an adult. I can handle someone not texting back. That's not genuinely what it means. But the brain is just associating and trying to predict the future by using the past evidence that it has.
Wow. Okay. This is good shit. I feel like I'm in a session with you right now. Which I know I do want to bring up something just so people can get like an example of like patterns and how they predict our life. And so I know when I first met Lilly, I was like new to this community and I was new to Boulder and I finally found some friends. And I told her, I go, I have this really insane fear of being exiled. Like I felt like I'm in this new community and I want everyone to like me so much and I had this fear of, being kicked out and I've had experiences in the past and so you could say my brain was running on this program. It was trying to prevent me from this loss of community because in the past, growing up in high school or middle school, I was like kicked out of group chats or not picked for dodgeball. And these patterns over time ricocheted into me being 29 years old, finally finding a group of friends in Boulder, Colorado. And then I have this fear of, being cut out. And I don't have that fear anymore because I've done a lot of fucking work on it, but it was strong. I was like, I didn't have this feeling with my friends in Arizona. So this was a whole new feeling and it started resurfacing. And then I linked it back. I was looking back at past experiences when this was happening. And it was like middle school and high school. And it's like at that point, I mean, I have my own tools. Like, but if a client came to you in this situation, like how do you lead clients? Is it through meditation, like journaling, prompts? Like what do people get with you?
It's through questions. It's asking the right questions that open doors that you haven't that you didn't even know were there, essentially. Right, the quote from Carl Jung is we're basically making the unconscious conscious so that it doesn't rule our lives, and then we call it fate. That's what we're doing. And you can do it through hypnosis. There's so many ways that you can access the subconscious mind, but for me in a session it is very intuitive and it's based on I'm picking up I'm decoding the language that you're using and also picking up on body language and expressions and energy to help guide like, ooh, there's something there. And then I ask a question and we go down that door. And eventually through a process of reverse engineering where you bring, for example, you just brought this problem in your life, right? Of I have this fear of being exiled from this new community. Okay, that is at the surface. That's what you know is hindering you. And then we take that and we reverse engineer it and we start to ask, where have you felt a similar experience in your past? How far back can you trace this? And through the right questions, you start to get at a younger version of you, a younger experience that, like you said, you got kicked out of a group chat. Okay, now we explore that. What did you make that mean about yourself? At that age, how did that feel? What was that like? And then you start to uncover the deeper meanings that we unconsciously, subconsciously adopted, because at a young age we are still figuring out who we are and how we can get our needs met and fit in the world. And so everything becomes about us. We can't understand that maybe we got kicked out of the group chat because for some reason that's not even related to us, because the girl's phone, I don't know, she got a new phone. It doesn't even matter, but the point is that everything becomes about us. This must mean I'm wrong, I'm bad, I'm not good enough. And this happens without us even knowing it, but enough hurt, we start to really believe that. And then when you have a subconscious story, the reason it's a self-fulfilling prophecy is because, for example, if you or let me just ask you, what could you have possibly made that mean that you got kicked out of a group chat in middle school?
I rooted it down to I'm not valuable.
Okay. And so with that subconscious identity, how would that now inform the way that you show up in like a new group?
Mm. I would have to, well, what I've done is like proving to myself that I am valuable, and like times when I have been chosen, and like again, like I had to rewire my brain because the
Mm-hmm.
awareness, and it sounds like this is what you do in your sessions, is you bring awareness to them. And I
Yeah.
think once the awareness is uncovered, it's like then you can start unloading the medicine within that. And so I was
Yeah.
brought this awareness, and then, or you go ahead.
Well, I was just gonna say, before you even started doing this work, right? The word prove is actually really strong there, because that is usually what happens. It's an overcompensation to try and disprove the fact that some deeper part of you feels not valuable. And so then we are slightly distorting ourselves, trying to be more than we are, trying to prove our worth and our value, which energetically is a little off, right? Like we said, everything is energy. Beliefs are just words, they're just sound if we break it down, but it informs our energetic state, and that is perceived and that influences our reality. It affects our relationships and everything. So even if there's the tiniest little overcompensation in order to try and be valuable, that that can affect the dynamics, and sometimes it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy where people pick up on that, and then yeah, they don't want to hang out with you as much, they feel like you're not being as authentic, and now you're finding more evidence to support that story, and it becomes a stronger belief. But really what's happened there is that you're still being influenced by a story that in and of itself is a lie. You weren't born not valuable. You picked that up. It's a story. And so when we investigate the validity of that story, it disintegrates. And the truth is, and it's not about adding affirmations of like, I'm valuable, because again, that is trying to overcompensate. That's trying to prove. It's like you have the limiting identity and belief, and now you're stacking affirmations on top, and you're doing all these strategic things to prove to yourself that you are. But it's like, no, we just have to get rid of the belief altogether, and then it's just, you're just left with you, which is inherently valuable and worthy and safe and all the other things. And from that place you can just show up as you naturally are, and that's going to be more aligned with authentic relationships. And so that's how it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. But if we don't understand that, we start to feel like a victim. Like, look at all this proof I have, this is just me, I'm just a fuck up, or I'm just not valuable. And we get stuck there and we keep finding more evidence, because that's how it works, until you disprove that. You go all the way back and you feel the feelings that you never fully allowed yourself to feel, because that has to be processed too. You question the validity. Is it absolutely true that I'm not valuable? No, that is a story. Like, that's not, if I were to cut you open right now, I would never find a manufacturing label that says Taylor, she's not valuable, right? That's just, it's a story. And so we can let that go. And so that is the awareness piece, which is half the battle or half the work. However, it doesn't stop there. And in fact, this has been the next level of my evolution, my work, is recognizing how that's a huge step. And there's one after that, which is practice. Because every part of you, your nervous system, your brain, your behaviors, which have been automated because we want to conserve energy, and it becomes our default mode network, our default way of being, essentially, is programmed based on that, especially if it's been decades that you've been operating from that subconscious belief. And so when we break that, we see the lie, we brought it to the conscious awareness, and now you get to practice being who you are, which is going to be a little uncomfortable because it's unfamiliar. So it's
Uh,
okay, if I would have normally texted this person 3 times just to make sure, again, that like overcompensation, or tried to perfect this offer because I just really want to prove that I'm valuable, we can catch those patterns and be like, wait a minute, that's a lie. That's my old way of being, the residual self image, if you will, that's coming up. And now I get to regulate my system, take a deep breath, remember that it's just a story. And what does it look like right now if I didn't have to prove anything? If I could just be me. And now we repeat that because through repetition, we rewire the mind.
wow. And this is where I see how community is so impactful. It's because it's like, who are you surrounding yourself with, or what accountability groups do you have, or who are you friends with that are supporting these beliefs? Because if you are a match to receive, being abandoned, and you're with friends who are also a match of that, it's like this constant back and forth. And then it's like proving to yourself that this keeps happening.
I mean, this is why relationships are so challenging in many ways, because especially if you think of in romantic relationships, like trauma bonds, that's what it is like, I have a and they go together hand in hand. That's why it can be so tricky. It's like, if I have a belief that I'm scared to be abandoned, and another person, usually what I'll attract is avoid it, because that would make me very like anxious of like, I don't want to be abandoned, so I'm gonna hold on. That's one way it can express. The other person might have the opposite one of, I feel like I'm being suffocated in relationships, and so they're pulling away, and it just becomes this, our subconscious identities and beliefs and traumas are reinforcing the other and triggering the other, and that's why it can be really challenging, and we can just project it onto the other person. However, relationships, like safe, conscious relationships, can also be the greatest catalyst to heal this. When we become aware of what our patterns are and we can voice that in the moment, then our partners can actually become a safe space for us to reprogram that, and our communities as well.
Dude, I this is blowing my mind. I haven't stepped into the like relationship realm, like a lover realm, but me and my he's a hypnotherapist, like psychic medium. He's like my best friend. We always talk about like sometimes we're too fucking aware, and like I wish we could just call someone else like a bitch. Like, can he just be like a fuck boy, or can she just be a bitch? But it's like we're way too aware of our patterns, and we're like, it's not just them, like it's me. It's me too.
Yeah. Yeah, this work takes away your ability to really hate anyone. Is what I've noticed.
No,
It's just
literally.
you can't unsee it. And that doesn't mean you tolerate, because this is where boundaries and discernment comes in. Of, we have to be able to hold both the ability to respect ourselves enough to be like, I'm not going to tolerate your behavior, but at the same time, I attracted this for some reason, so I can do my work. But that can happen simultaneously. You can walk away from a friendship that's just not serving you, and at the same time be like, well, what within me played a role in this, and to some degree, if not, I
Yeah.
wouldn't be in it.
Yeah, I've learned to, because people will come to me and who are not like aware of this kind of stuff and start like venting. And I'm like, okay, wait. Do you want me to be the ear to listen and call him a cunt, or like call that girl a bitch? Or do you want me to like reflect back and like how you can improve it? But like sometimes
Mm-hmm.
you gotta just call someone like a bitch and move on and then come back to that later, you know?
Yeah, no, you actually make a big point here, because it can be a way to bypass the human emotions, the human experience, like we talked about in our other podcast, of sometimes we just need to feel like the victim and just let that happen. And so venting is actually a way for us to process the emotional charge and the human part that just like, ugh, like I just hate this. Like I'm hurt, really. And so venting can sometimes be helpful for that. And then in order to actually move on, to heal, to grow, to learn, it does require the okay, now that I've let that process, I've had some time to vent with my girls, let me look at this and let me see what it's here to teach me. Like, how do I play a role in this? What is available here for me? Or else we just get stuck repeating the same patterns and projecting the blame onto someone else, which gets us nowhere.
Yeah. So someone who's like not familiar with this work or is new or has never heard of subconscious before, it's like, or maybe they have, it's like if they're going through something really deep and intense, like do you have like a go-to or like what's your go-to when you're really feeling it or going through something?
Always start with the body. It's
Mm.
like, don't even try to do the subconscious work when you are deeply feeling something. That is always first. And this is in relationships too. If you want to show up for a friend or your partner or anything, you have to meet someone where they're at first before you can ever impart any perspective or give any advice. Like, just meet someone in their humanity, in their feelings, without trying to change them, without trying to fix it, because that's going to, if you just come at it straight with like, what's the lesson, a person is so closed off because they feel completely dismissed of like, hey, I'm hurting. Like, I don't I, there's no room right now to look at that. And so even with yourself, a lot of the work I teach is doing this on yourself, like how to come home to yourself, how to show up for yourself. Step 1 is always meet yourself emotionally through the body. So let yourself feel fully whatever it is. Like, stop trying to justify it, stop trying to analyze it, because that becomes a sneaky way, which I know very well, of bypassing our emotions. It's like, oh, let me just find the higher perspective, and I can do that so quickly at this point, but it overrides the humanness, the emotions that are alive. And energy can't be created nor destroyed. It has to move. And so that is step 1, is just meet yourself with compassion, the same way you would meet like a friend that you really care for. If she came to you and was like, Taylor, I'm struggling so hard, like this guy, like I just went through this breakup and this guy did this and this, you wouldn't be like, okay, let's analyze this. You'd be like, you'd meet her. Women are so good at this with other women. Like, we're so naturally nurturing, but we're not very good at doing that for ourselves. We think we should know better. And it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what you think you should know. The truth is, where are you and what are you feeling? And can you make space to be a big enough human being to just allow this experience to be here and trust that it's here for a reason? And then once your body is relaxed and you're like, okay, I feel a little more neutral in my system, then we can use questions, and you can journal, you can meditate. There's so many tools for how to access the deeper insights. And it's really just asking yourself the questions of like, what is this here to teach me? What is the pattern? Like, investigating, rather than being like, well, why did he do that? Oh, he, like, just trying to analyze the other person or why it happened. It's more so, what about me came up? Where did these feelings come from? Where did this start? Why is this here? What am I afraid of? What triggered it? And that can start to lead to some big doors.
Yeah, almost like be the observer, like zoom out a bit.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so do you see, because I don't know. I think I see a lot of girlies in the healing space. Like, do you usually mainly work with women? Do you see men doing this work? Like, do you see a theme in your clients that you are attracting? Like, what's your
Yeah,
ideal client?
me 4 years ago, 5 years ago, that's
Mhm.
usually who you're going to attract in the coaching space, is what I've noticed, because that's what I know best. Is like my patterns. And so for me, it's the girl who people pleases, who wants to fit in, who is a shapeshifter, who's easygoing and deep down doesn't fully express her needs and her desires and isn't fully like standing in her worth and owning her power. And that can express in a lot of different ways, but that's usually the energetics of what I notice, because that was me, and still to some degree, it's a process, it's a spectrum. I have worked with men, and I do work with men one on one, but I mostly have women that come to me. And yeah, I do see men do this work. I think there are more women in the healing space currently. Like there's more women who are attracted to this work. However, I mean in our community there are a ton of men also, and it looks a little bit different, but essentially it's the same. And so much, I mean, I've seen my partner do so much of the same work, and to be able to become familiar with our patterns, which are essentially rooted in an inner child version of us, and then get to know your partner's inner child and start to see that when they get upset or triggered, is a really beautiful way to relate, because you can really help each other heal and hold each other through that, and also take accountability in bigger ways instead of projecting. So yeah, I don't know if that
I
answers
like,
your question, but
oh yeah, everything and more. Okay, what's with the people pleasing? I swear, I've met some girls who are like, oh yeah, I've never had that problem. And I'm like, how? Like, is just a female pattern I feel like growing up? And like, where does this come from? Is it like an experience, or is it literally just society programming us to be people pleasers?
both, I think. I mean, it's so deeply rooted. It's like we all just want to belong. And people pleasing is just about the easiest way to do that. If you're liked by everyone, your chances of belonging, at least when you're younger, when you're not around people who are doing this work, it works. There's a reason we do it, because it works when you're younger. It just does. However, once you get older, and especially once you start to discover who you really are and you want deeper, more authentic relationships, that energy doesn't work anymore. It's felt. It's inauthentic, simply put. And it's not wrong. So I think that this is the biggest thing, that's because I still fall into this pattern all the time. But I'm able to catch it quicker and interrupt the pattern. So it doesn't have the same grip over me. Whereas we go through these stages where, well, I'm not going to name them all, but essentially you're acting unconsciously. Then you start to notice your patterns, but they still have a grip over you. It takes a lot of effort to shift them. And then eventually, through repetition, you get back into the driver's seat and the patterns don't run you as much. And over time, it completely dissolves because you've done it enough to now it becoming automatic, your way of being. But these patterns are really deeply ingrained. And if, again, people pleasing has become such a, oh, like you're a people pleaser, it comes with so much judgment, I think. And really, when we get down to the core of it, it's a little girl who just wants to belong. And
Mm.
so, can we have compassion, which is a necessary ingredient in order to stop people pleasing? Because if you shame her, she's only going to feel more threatened and in danger, and she's gonna try even harder. So it's like, okay, I recognize that you're doing this. I recognize that you really want to fit in right now. And the irony is that you've already rejected yourself by doing that. So can we come home to ourselves for a second? Can we realize that we can't not belong? You are part of the tribe. You can't not belong. And realize that you being you is actually going to result in such deeper, more authentic friendships. But you kind of have to prove that. So sometimes it just takes one friend who you can be really real with and be like, hey, I said, I've done this before, where it's the people pleasing tendency just came out, and I just said yes instantly to something that was really a no for me. It's still okay at the beginning to go back and be like, if you have friends who are also doing this work, but to be like, hey, in that moment, my people pleasing tendency came out, and I really just wanted to say yes to, to show up for you. But the truth is that I just feel really exhausted, and I feel like I need to just stay in tonight. we can communicate that. That actually creates so much more depth because intimacy is letting someone see you. And part of seeing me is like, hey, I have this pattern of people pleasing that I'm working through. And here's another way that it showed up today. And now it's like, I'm not going to pretend that I have it all together, which is building a wall between us because it's not, you're not fully seeing me in all parts of me. And instead I'm letting you into the process. And so that's really helpful for starting to heal because it's not going to happen all at once. It takes practice.
Wow. And I feel one of the biggest things that I've been getting more comfortable with these past few months is getting comfortable with disappointing people and know that in the past, showing up when I didn't want to, I was disappointing myself. And it's like at the end of the day, it's like, wait, if I'm on my deathbed and I look back and I'm disappointing myself every fucking chance, it's like, what am I doing? And, most of the times when I have been like, oh, I have to cancel or, I'm going to stay in tonight, my friends are totally okay with it. And it's just this story in my head that they're going to exile me or be disappointed. And again, I really think it's just, like you said, what has hurt in the past is determining like our future or whatever the fuck it was. But um, yeah, if my friends cancel on me, I'm like, great, I get to stay in. Like I'm a Taurus. Like I almost like want it to happen sometimes. And I think people just get too caught up in their heads when it comes to, you know, trying to control other people's reactions. Because two is like, it's not your job to live up to the image that they have of you. Because everyone has their own little character of you in their head. And so, why are you trying to live up to that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I would even take it a step further and say, really, what you're trying to live up is trying to live up to the image of what you think they have of you in their head, but it's still your thoughts. Like you said earlier, it's we're working with our own fears, and it's mostly happening internal. Very rarely is it actually like someone told us something specifically or exiled us directly. We are literally reacting to our own imagination of I think this person is judging me and so therefore I'm shifting the way that I'm acting, but it's like it's literally just a reaction to your own thoughts and your own imagination, your own stories. It's crazy when you think about it. Like all judgment really is us judging ourselves. We are perceiving someone as judging us usually, and so then we're all anxious and weird about it. Half of the time we don't even know if it's true. Like, are they actually judging you? And even if they are, if you didn't actually to some degree believe that or have shame around that, then you would literally not care because it's words, it's thoughts in someone's head that doesn't actually impact you unless it is impacting you based on your own beliefs and your own stories about yourself. So it's funny because we're working we think it's all about people out there and what are other people going to think, but really it's like you're concerned with what you think other people are going to think.
Yeah, I think this has been a huge realization. Like last year, it's like, wait, but is it my intuition predicting it? Like, or is it just my mind? And it's so, me and my friends talk about this too all the time. It's like, we're very, very intuitive. So are we intuitively picking up like what's going to happen? Or is it just like, again, like this false determination? And I loved how in the beginning of this, you said, like, when you're going through something hard, you return to the body. And so when thoughts like that come up, you have to say, well, what is my body telling me? Is it contracting? Because usually that's a no. Or does it feel expansive? And that's usually like a more yes. And so, like, when your mind starts racing, is that when you would suggest, like, okay, go to your body and what it's communicating?
Yeah, I have this saying that says overthinking is underfeeling. So usually when we are spiraling in our heads is because we're avoiding a feeling. So the first thing to do is ask yourself, what am I avoiding feeling right now? And that usually brings up the fears that are there, the overwhelm, the sadness, the grief, the fear, whatever it might be. And it's like if we just give ourselves a moment to just feel that, that usually dissipates a lot of the overthinking. And the other helpful question that you can sit with, especially when you're battling, like, oh, is this my intuition or is this my mind? Again, regulate the body, which comes through feeling what's present and what's alive. Coming back to like a calm state usually really calms the mind as well. And then asking myself, like, who would I be without this thought? How would I show up if I didn't have this thought, if I wasn't concerned about this situation happening? And then notice what happens there. Start to listen to how your body responds to that. That's a good way of telling, is this just a scary thought that's coming up in my mind that my body's responding to, or is this intuition?
Wow. I think this is why, well, I think I pretty much know this is why I was drawn so much to combo. And in 2023, I did a lot of fucking combo because it made me feel.
Mm.
You can't be thinking when your body is feeling that intense sensation. And so, intelligent me now, or more aware me now, would look back and say, this girl was just avoiding feeling what she was feeling. And so she kept signing up for ceremony because the sensation of the burning, the the medicine on your skin, the heart racing was just, it was her feeling, and it let her mind just kind of like relax for a bit. And I see this pattern with people who are so addicted to really intense things like adrenaline, or just anything that causes you to feel very intensely, even fucking cutting your wrist. It's getting you out of your head and into your body to feel. And so when these overthinking patterns come up, it's like, I think one of the biggest toolboxes we could pull out at that point is to just sit, like take a pause and like touch your body or feel it. And these past few months, I've been getting really back into tapping, EFT. And I seriously think it's just, again, subconsciously, my body just wants me to like touch myself. Like, hello, here, human.
Yeah.
And if you think about the universe and like, we're here on Earth, like we have to humanize, we have to feel and be in our bodies, or else we're gonna fucking be all over the place.
Mm-hmm. It's what grounds you back into reality. Your body is your direct access to the now. Your felt experience is your access to this moment right now. And that's everything that's overthinking and anxiety and all of that is happening in the mind. So if you can anchor back into the felt experience of like literally using your senses, right? What do you see? Name some things that you see. What do you smell? What do you taste? How do you like feel? That's all going to bring you back because that's happening right now, and that is an anchor. And if you can learn how to breathe through that and relax the system, then yeah, the mind can relax as a result. Most of us are trying to just get through the mind without actually feeling, and the body is the anchor back to the now. And when it comes to feeling and touching, like I love that you mentioned that, because also in the last episode or the last podcast we did together, we talked about inner child healing and how do you soothe a child. That's what we're doing to ourselves in many ways as well. And touch is one of, with, I don't know the exact statistics on this, but I know that a child who is not actually, doesn't have physical touch can die. Like we need connection, we need human connection to help regulate it when we're babies. But even as adults, it's one, self-soothing touch is one of the quickest ways to bring yourself back. And people don't realize they can do that, or they think it's weird, but like literally just giving yourself a hug or caressing your arms or tapping, any of that. Because and another reason for this is because when you touch any part of your body, you're bringing your awareness there. So to me, touch really helps to get into my body, and so does movement, because it's like a direct, you're pointing to somewhere in your body and your mind's going to go there. So it's going to help with the mind body connection and to bring your awareness away from the thoughts and into your physical body.
Damn. Yeah, always think of cold plunging because I'm like, it's
You can't
such.
overthink when you're in a cold plunge.
It is so fucking intense, and it's you can't distract yourself. Like you have to be there. And there was a while where I got really into cold plunging. And I think too, dude, 2023, I was insane. I was doing all the intense things. I was doing like 6 minute ice baths, combo like 3 times a month. And it was the same year I really started to feel into my heart. I was, just in this experience where my heart was being highly, highly activated. And so I started to do all these things. And I don't know if I was trying to control it or avoid it. I wrote a lot of fucking poetry that year, but it was just like, I just needed this intensity. And now what's coming through right now is because I numbed it out my whole life for so long. And that too could be why people are drawn to these intense things, is because they were numb or taught to be numb or weren't validated in your feelings. I think not being validated, or when you start to feel something as a kid and then you're shut down or told it's wrong, I think that's the moment that you just disconnect.
Yeah, that disconnection from self is, I would say, the one of the biggest patterns that I see with the women that I work with and that I had too. And there's, like you said, we're disconnected from feeling and we're overthinking. We're living from the mind and we're completely disconnected from the body. And eventually that'll show up in health symptoms like we talked about as well. And I mean, it shows up in so many ways, but it's being able to drop down, and that requires us to get through the subconscious beliefs that made us think it's not safe to feel. We're going to get kicked out, we're going to be perceived as weak, we're going to get abandoned, we've been told it's wrong. Those are all the stories that are blocking us from naturally being human, which is feeling everything. So it's working through that and then learning how to come into your body and create safety and slowly express more. But yeah, it's like a lot of these tools help us do that, and it makes sense why we're drawn to them.
Yeah, I think there's like two halves I see. It's like these tools can become like how I experienced at one time was an escape from being human. And then the other side, which is the beautiful side, is they can make us be better humans. And, I see the two polarities in the spiritual world. And there's no right or wrong here. I don't think there is a right or wrong, but it's like, are you doing the work to suffer? Like, there's this meme going around, and it said something on the lines of like, don't get too caught into it that you forget it's like all for fun or something. I don't know. But like, really, it's like, why are you doing the work? Are you literally doing the work because you're like thinking you need to? And are you just constantly like in pain or like hating on yourself? Or are you doing it because you want to like have a higher soul evolution and enjoy your life?
Full circle moment to what we talked about at the beginning. It's where is it coming from? That's going to dictate everything. Are you using these practices to escape yourself and or to prove yourself? Or are you using them as a way to support the best version of yourself, to tap into your potential, to feel good? That's ultimately all the difference. It's not about what you're doing, it's about why you're doing it. Where is it coming from? Can you be okay if I took all your practices from you? Would you still be okay? Would you still be able to like be human, or would you freak out? That's one way. It's like when people, because yeah, it becomes another coping mechanism. It just looks better and it's more approved. And I mean that's what I was doing with my health. It's like from the outside I was getting so much praise, like, wow, you do all these things, like it's so cool. And on the inside I'm like, god forbid I don't have my supplements one day, or I can't work out, right? That's, you're not okay.
Yeah.
And so nothing outside of you is going to fix that. It's like our ability to just sit and be present and get to the root of like, why can I not be okay with who I am right now?
Mm. I want that question to be the icing on the cake. I want to leave it there.
Cool.
But I do want to ask, is there anything else you want to leave off the table today? Or leave on the table? Like what do you want the listeners to know? We're going to share your socials at the end, but
Hmm.
what's something that you think the people need to know?
I think one of the most important reminders that I could share is that you are both a masterpiece and a work in progress at the same time. And that quote is not from me, that one's from Peter Crone as well, but it really does put things into perspective to help us remember that there's always going to be more work to do. And at the same time, you're exactly where you're supposed to be, and there's nothing wrong with this version of you. Because we can go on both extremes where we're like just having fun and partying and repeating patterns. And we're like, I don't care, I'm just living my life. And that can be a little destructive, and you're not really growing, which is kind of sad. Or you can be on the complete opposite spectrum where it's like everything's a process and everything requires so much work, and it's just this constant, like, never ending work to do on yourself, which takes the life out of it. Like, we're all gonna die, you know? So, can we hold both the fact that we are whole and complete on a soul level and we're a work in progress? And like, both of those are gonna coexist for the rest of your life. And can you be a big enough human being to enjoy your life and not have to overanalyze and inspect everything that you do, and also like, yeah, do your work when you need to so that you don't pass this shit on to your children, and so that we can raise the consciousness of humanity and have some potential of saving ourselves on this planet
I love
at the same
that
time.
message. Yeah. That message was definitely for me too.
Same.
All right. Well, I just love getting to know you.
I love you. Thank you for
I love
doing
you.
this.
Yeah. So how can people find you? And are you like what's going on in Lily land over on Instagram?
I am in the final 2 weeks of launching my program home. So, depending on when this comes out, I don't know when it will, but that might still be going. We start on April 16th. So if you're interested, this is for women. It's a 12-week group program, an intimate group program with women where we can go on this exact journey of coming back to yourself, doing the subconscious work, learning how to land back in your body, create safety so that you can let go of the people pleasing, the insecurities, the stories that hold you back from being who you are, and build deep connections and open your heart. Really, there's a lot to it, but it's a beautiful journey in community with other women. So that is starting on April 16th, and then we only have one spot left for that. And I do one-on-one coaching, which is always available year-round. So that is available, and you can just send me a DM on Instagram. Like, let's just get connected. I love meeting people. I love having relationships, and we can see if it's a good fit. But yeah, just here to support in any way. If anyone just needs someone to talk to or has something that they're repeating in their life that they want to look through, like, come say hi.
Okay, I love that. And you have a podcast too.
Yes, I do. And Taylor was on it, so go listen to that episode. We referred to it a lot in this conversation. It's called Home to Self. It's available everywhere and on YouTube. And that's it.
Okay, cool. I'll include, since I'm a professional podcaster, I'll include all of that in the show notes. And yeah, you guys, how did we do? This is my first interview, kind of. It's not, but we're getting more. Okay, we're doing series. Okay, we're
You
learning.
crushed it.
Thanks.
10 out of 10. Would
10 out of 10.
recommend.
Well, you hear it. You hear it there, folks. Anyways, we'll talk soon. Okay. Okay. Bye.
Bye.